The Superhero Squad show, season 2, had a lot of actors that I did not expect to be in here. If you've ever seen The Big Bang Theory, which I haven't, I've seen clips on TikTok and I knew about it way before that. Um, the actor for Sheldon voices one of the villains. He voices the Nightmare, who is one of my favorite villains in the comics, who they still haven't really done anything with in most Marvel projects. So it was very cool to see him in this, but I don't think he fits the Nightmare. Um, he was also briefly in iCarly. He was in this one movie I watched back in high school that was about racism. Um, and he was racist in that. But yeah, he plays the Nightmare in this, and it is fine, I guess. The girl that voices Nebula, um, I mostly know her for Wreck-It Ralph. She played Fix-It Felix's girlfriend in that movie. Adam West plays a superhero in this show, and they definitely reference the Batman because he played the Batman. They talk about vengeance and stuff, and it's clearly just them referencing his previous part. Amanda's Cho, nobody really played him, but he made a brief appearance in Superhero Squad in an episode where Reptile goes to school. Um, he plays Amanda's Cho. There's just a character that plays Amanda's Cho. He never appears as the Hulk or anything, but he was referenced. So, yeah, it was cool to see him in the show. But he doesn't really do anything. The Molecule Man finally makes an appearance after they referenced him in the first season, but as a villain, kinda, because he does break Doom out of prison, but he doesn't really do any villaining besides that, and he only makes 2 appearances. But in his reference in season 1, Iron Man says he's a superhero, and they do not talk about that at all. They're not like, oh yeah, he's a villain now, or he changed his mind. I guess they just forgot they referenced him. Um, Miss Marvel and a throwaway line in the last season mentioned having a boyfriend in space, and it was apparently true, and her boyfriend from space is Captain Marvel. So they brought that in, but nothing really happens with that. Every time Captain Marvel's on screen, he usually gets his ass kicked, and they just kind of forget about him. He's not a very important character. Not that I'm a Captain Marvel fan or anything, but it was a very weird decision. I don't like either of the Captain Marvels. I personally liked Miss Marvel better when she was Miss Marvel in the comics. I liked the person that was writing her better. A lot of people look at me weird for that, opinion, but ask those same people if they prefer Red Hood or what he originally was as Robin. They're gonna say Red Hood. Sure, it's the same character, but they can be better if they're written differently. Kind of like how Eric O'Grady was trash as Ant-Man, but I really enjoy him as the Black Ant with his stuff with Taskmaster in the comics. I've just always liked Miss Marvel better. Never really been a fan of Captain Marvel. Brie Larson does okay as her in the MCU, but I've never been a fan of Captain Marvel. Either one. Anyways, um, we also get, some people here and there. We get Man Thing, who I did remember being in this show. He was one of my first, you know, times I saw him since I was a little kid when I saw him at my grandma's house on her TV. But, he's kind of wasted. He's just a fart joke. Every time he talks, it sounds like a fart. Ha ha, funny. Um, we also get, the Devil Dinosaur and Moon Boy, who I've never liked Moon Boy. I've always thought Moon Girl was cooler. And when I read the episode of it being Devil Dinosaur, I was really excited to see Moon Girl. But I forgot she wasn't created till years later. So no, it is not Moon Girl, it is boring ass Moon Boy. Who, if you look him up, he doesn't even show up. You have to look up Marvel Comics to find his ass, because he's that boring of a character. Um, Yeah, so he's here. If you're a Moon Boy fan, which I am not, they do reference Winter Soldier. Captain America gets a call in a random episode, and he says he doesn't even know what a Winter Soldier is. So that was their reference to Winter Soldier. They they have Hawkeye and Luke Cage reduced to cameo appearances. Hawkeye was in like episode 2, one of my favorite episodes of season 1, and then he never appeared again until this season. Luke Cage was up in episode 7, and he had a pretty good voice actor, really enjoyed his role, and then he never showed up again. Well, they both show up in the same episode, and they just like fly around for like 3 seconds on screen. So, really don't know why they were there, but it was kind of cool to see them. Thanos is shown to be the big bad. He's in the intro now. They have a completely reworked intro because, some of the characters are no longer big roles or no longer heroes, like Silver Surfer, for example. So they reworked it, put Scarlet Witch on the theme song, and they make it seem like Thanos is going to be the big bad of this show. Doctor Doom still makes more appearances than Thanos. He still does more stuff. They fight Doctor Doom a lot more. Thanos usually just gets beaten up and runs away. And then he gets beaten up and runs away. Silver Surfer eventually puts him in the Soul Stone, and he's just trapped in the Soul Stone for like 8 or 10 episodes. He just does not matter. They promoted him like he was going to be the next big villain, and he wasn't. I do not understand why they wrote it like that. It's so fucking weird. Silver Surfer single handedly beats Galactus, so he's gone now. They mention it in the finale, but I completely forgot that happened. Um, Ronan the Accuser is here. He's a good guy. Hyperion is here. He's a good guy too, even though he's a villain in the comics. Nebula is Thanos' sister. Um, she makes a few appearances, and like I said, she was voiced by the girl in Wreck-It Ralph. And that's really all I could hear. But I still think she did a decent job for what they gave her. Season 2 is no doubt not very good. And it sucks to say that. It's not terrible, but it's not very good. Season 1 is by far way better, and I can see why it didn't get another season. Which sucks to say. And they really push down on the fourth wall break jokes. It was something that happened here and there in the early season of season 1, and then they started to push it way more towards the end of season 1, and now it is one of the main jokes they do in season 2. And half the time it's not very funny, and you can just expect it to come. There's a lot of jokes about this episode this episode that. um Silver Surfer strands them all across the universe because it's he knows that someone will eventually come and save them if they're just frozen in place. So he doesn't want that to happen, so he puts them in all different places. So it becomes like a 7-parter. A 7-parter. Because he split up most of the superhero squad. Reptile doesn't make an appearance till like episode 8. Then eventually he just kind of disappears from the show. So that was something. Firestar is here, who I've only ever seen in Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe, which I read that book and the sequel. And she was obviously in the 70s Amazing Spider-Man and Friends, which I haven't watched in a long time, but I do plan to watch again. This season just wasn't very good. I've already said that, but I definitely didn't care for it, and it was disappointing to say the least. So that is it. There was actually 2 things I forgot to mention, and one was the superhero squad little thing they do, where Iron Man goes, "Superhero squad, it's time to hero up." Then a couple characters, they hero up. Well, they have this really funny gag. Not really. Where Iron Man tries to hero up in the beginning of the episode, but it's too early apparently. I'm pretty sure they've heroed up in a beginning in episode before, but whatever. He tries to do it halfway through, but it's still too early apparently. And then eventually when he does get to do it, Silver Surfer straight up interrupts it. He attacks Iron Man and Falcon and Scarlet Witch during their hero up thing. Very unique. I thought that was a kind of a funny gag. And then they finally get to hero up at the end of the episode, but the episode ends. So then the next episode continues with the hero up thing in the beginning of the episode, even though in the beginning of the episode is too early by their own logic. So very weird choice. And then they end up doing it at the very end of the episode anyway. And, Scarlet Witch is like, well, I'm a new member or whatever, so shouldn't I get to say it? But, she's been a new member since like episode 9 at least. She's been here a long ass time. She's the one that appears the most. Thor and Reptile get pushed to the side. They don't really do much in this show. Even Hulk, it's more Reptile. Well, not Reptile. I mean more Iron Man. He's like the main focus, and Scarlet Witch and Falcon, even though Falcon really doesn't do that much. But he is a main focus. So yeah, that was kind of weird. I still really like Scarlet Witch. She was definitely one of the most valuable people in this season. She's the most valuable person, period, in the show besides maybe Wolverine. She's very important in the comics. She's very powerful. But it is very weird that they introduce her. They make her a new superhero squad. They did that like last season, I'm pretty sure. Later in the last season. Maybe it was this season. But I remember a gag with Wolverine and Hulk being annoyed that Reptile was complaining about her being a new member. And Hulk's like, even I know it's because she's older. But, it's been a long time since she's been a new member. So it just felt like a very forced line. And now here's the second thing I forgot to talk about was the finale. It was that bad that I forgot about it. The finale. Silver Surfer turns into a bunch of different people. He's like blue, yellow, green Surfer. Then they all fight him. Most of the fights are forgettable. The only one I really remember was Silver Surfer tries to convince Hulk to join him by making him smarter. Hulk gets scared that he's using big words, so he beats himself up and he falls on Silver Surfer. So then Surfer is like, oh, you thought it would be that easy. So it's revealed that all the surfers they were fighting were hallucinations. So the lame fight actually wasn't lame. Except he puts all the superhero squad up in there, handcuffs them or whatever with his powers. And then Ronan immediately shows up and handcuffs Silver Surfer. So the fight is over. You think he's going to escape or something to continue the fight, but no, it's over. That was it. Ronan just shows up and handcuffs him. That's it. That's so fucking lame. Then they realize that, oh shit, Surfer wasn't fighting with the Infinity Sword. So I guess the universe isn't going to go back to normal yet. So they got to go find the sword. They find it. Iron Man and Doctor Doom fight over it. It shatters. So that fixes the universe or whatever. Doom goes back to prison, but his sentence isn't as bad. It's still 3 life years or whatever. And then Thanos and Adam Warlock get released from the Soul Stone. And, Thanos wants to fight the superhero squad, but they laugh at him because, he really hasn't done shit. And they've lost respect for him. And Silver Surfer's in jail, so he doesn't get to fight him. So because of a few episodes ago, they talked about a chicken farm. Apparently, Thanos and Adam Warlock are gonna run a chicken farm now. And that was the finale. It ends with, them doing the superhero squad thing again, which would be a nice feeling if they didn't do it in the beginning of the episode. but they did it again. And that was the end to this show. Very disappointing. It got a video game in 2009, which was around the time this season came out. Do not remember much about it, but I will buy it and play it eventually in the future and review it. It also had Superhero Squad Online, which lasted like several years after the show ended, which is amazing. It lasted until 2017. I'm so sad that I never played it. And yeah, that was it. That was the end to the Superhero Squad show. Oh, and actually, I forgot to mention one thing that was about the finale. Remember how I said they did the Superhero Squad thing in the beginning of the episode? Remember how I said Silver Surfer stopped them the last time they tried to do it? Well, he just stands there and watches them do it this time, apparently. He stopped them from doing the Superhero Squad thing in the previous episode, but he doesn't do it in this one. Which, I get it. If they wanted to do the Superhero Squad thing one last time, it would have been fine, but they do it in the end of the episode. So, he just stands there and watches them do the Superhero Squad hero up, apparently, thing. Even though he stopped them in the very previous episode. With a show that constantly does fourth wall breaks, why would they not point out this very dumb writing decision? They dug themselves in their own hole by being a kid show that constantly tells you it's a show. There's parts where the mayor writes a script. There's parts where they point out it's an episode. There's parts where they point out stuff only works because of the plot. And then they're not going to acknowledge this at all. Silver Surfer, in the previous episode, like I've stated before, stops him from heroing up. But this time he just sits there and watches. I guess he's feeling nice today. Very dumb. And then they give Reed Richards an episode. It was okay. All the other Fantastic Four have gotten an episode by this point. Thing had like a big episode with Silver Surfer in like episode 3, I think. Human Torch was kind of a big deal. And fucking the Doctor Strange episode in season 1. And Invisible Woman had a lot of scenes in an episode where she records stuff on Asgard because you're not allowed to record on Asgard. So they gave him an episode with Miss Marvel. And he kisses her on the cheek and she blushes, even though she has a boyfriend. I mean, I guess you can blush if you have a boyfriend and someone kisses you, but it's kind of weird. You know, they also kind of imply that Reed and Invisible Woman aren't together anymore, and then they just never do anything with that again. It's like a family cutaway gag with even Iron Man, you know, commenting after that he's been there before. Very weird joke. And that's it. And, you know, I'm going to put this in the beginning of the video, I guess. Or at the end. I don't know. I don't know where it would fit better. Since I didn't think I would talk about it for this long, I thought it would only been a few minutes of catching up. But I definitely ranted for a bit.